Severe weather risk for the Rockies, but also a fire risk for the plains for October 4th, 2025. Good morning, I'm meteorologist Pew, and briefly talking about the tropics, we are still looking at that tropical disturbance off the coast of Africa where there's a 40% chance of something forming in the next 7 days. Now, for the past 2 days, we've been looking at a tropical disturbance right off the coast of Florida, but there's no chance that that's going to become a tropical storm or hurricane. Now, while that is the case, there still is a low pressure there, but also in the Gulf. And with these low pressure systems, we're going to see isolated to scattered heavy rain all the way from the Louisiana coast to the Florida Peninsula and to the South Carolina coast. And this is because low pressures are counterclockwise flow, and in this moment we're seeing a lot of easterly flow but also a little bit of southeasterly flow. And with the tropics being tropics, it's a very moist environment, so we're going to see dew points in the 70s all along the coastline, but also temperatures above 80. So in all these areas the air is very unstable and very buoyant, and so it's going to be very easy for the convection to occur. And so now we're going to have a marginal flash flood risk for the Louisiana coast, but also still Florida. And so speaking of flash flooding, we still have a marginal risk in the central Rockies. And in terms of severe weather, we do have a slight risk, or a 2 out of 5 in the eastern Rockies, but also a marginal risk going from the central Rockies to the northern plains. And the biggest hazard today is winds up to 60 miles per hour or greater, while also having a marginal chance to see large hail in all the marginal risk areas. So if we look at 500 millibars or midway to the troposphere, just like how we talked about yesterday, this trough that came from the Pacific is now a negatively tilted trough, which basically just means that the base of the trough is leaning to the east. And whenever you see a trough that leans more negative or to the east, it generally means it's going to be producing a lot more potential energy for storms. And it's because they're generally associated with 4 different things. 1, great shear, which is going to tilt those updrafts and prolong those storms. 2, vorticity or spin, and that's going to help with the upward motion. 3, it's going to be bringing in cold air aloft, so any rise in air parcels, because the parcel itself is much warmer than the cold air environment, it's going to rise even faster because hot air rises. And 4, at the surface we will generally see some kind of matured low pressure, and we will see that. And we still have a lot of mid-level moisture, and so because we have a lot of shear, vorticity, but also with the higher elevation and mountain ranges of the winds going up and down with the mountain, we're having a lot of mixing of the boundary layers. And speaking of mixing, this trough has been the transport between the colder air from the north and the hotter air from the south. In the plains we have a lot of southwesterly flow aloft, but also a lot of dry air, and we can also see there's a pretty decent amount of shear as well. Now going down to the surface, we do have a low pressure that's going to be developing from the eastern Colorado area to the plains, and this is going to deepen throughout the day, which means that the pressure gradient in the plains is going to increase. And when that happens, we're going to have more surface winds. So we're going to have surface southwesterly winds up to 20 to 30 miles per hour. And with these winds in eastern Colorado, we're going to go downslope from the mountains. And so when you go downslope, it's going to be bringing in a lot of dry air. And because we also know there's extremely dry air aloft, that's also going to be sinking down as well. And so we're going to see relative humidities in the plains of 15 to 25%. So with really high surface winds, dry conditions, very hot weather, it just makes it very susceptible that today we have an elevated fire risk from the eastern Colorado area to Minnesota and Iowa.